How do you burn through over $500 million in just 2 years? Simple. You buy a movie ticket for $15, sell it to your customer for $9, and just pray they are too lazy to actually go to the theater. In 2017, a service called MoviePass didn't just disrupt the Hollywood box office. It orchestrated one of the most spectacularly stupid financial implosions in Silicon Valley history. The response to their seemingly revolutionary idea was absolute mayhem. Websites crashed. Millions rushed to sign up. And for a brief, glorious summer, film lovers were ecstatic, treating MoviePass funds like free monopoly money to funnel into local businesses. But this wasn't a sustainable business plan. It was a recipe for an unprecedented disaster. Within just 2 years, the company would lose a staggering 90% of its subscribers, burn through mountains of investor cash, and collapse into a humiliating bankruptcy, culminating in its executives facing federal fraud charges. This is the almost unbelievable story of how a genuinely innovative idea was hijacked, weaponized, and spectacularly self-destructed. The craziest part of this entire saga is that MoviePass wasn't born out of a delusional tech frenzy. It actually began in 2011 as a smart, sustainable idea. Entrepreneurs Stacy Spikes and Hammett Watt founded the company in New York City with a vision to create a Netflix-style subscription for movie theaters. The initial service launched as a small test in San Francisco with a simple voucher system, but they immediately hit a wall of extreme hostility from major theater chains like AMC and Landmark. Theater executives were furious that an outside tech company dared to set ticket prices without their approval, causing the beta test to fail miserably. By 2012, MoviePass pivoted to a clever workaround, a mobile app paired with a prepaid debit card. Users checked in at theaters, the exact funds were loaded directly to the card, and they bought the ticket like a regular customer. It was an ingenious victory that bypassed direct theater partnerships. For years, MoviePass operated quietly and sustainably as a niche service for film enthusiasts. By 2016, offering tiered plans ranging from $15 to $50 a month, they had about 20,000 subscribers. It was a respectable, functioning business. But the Wall Street vultures were beginning to circle. Enter Mitch Lowe, a former Netflix executive, and Ted Farnsworth, the CEO of a data analytics firm called Helios and Matheson Analytics. Farnsworth was not your typical polished tech visionary. His colorful business history spanned everything from psychic hotline services to controversial vitamin ventures, with many previous companies closing down amid controversy and lawsuits. In 2017, Helios acquired a majority stake in MoviePass, and Farnsworth and Lowe immediately launched a suicidal pricing model that shocked the entire entertainment industry. They offered unlimited movies, effectively one per day every day, for a flat rate of just $9.95 a month. To understand the sheer insanity of this, the average U.S. movie ticket at the time cost $9.17. The math was brutally simple and impossible to ignore. If a subscriber saw just 2 movies in a whole month, MoviePass was bleeding cash. They were literally paying full retail price to theaters while charging customers pennies. When the original founder, Stacy Spikes, looked at this fundamentally flawed model, he urgently warned the new leadership that this price point was completely unsustainable and would lead to certain disaster. His reward for knowing basic arithmetic and honesty? He was promptly fired from the very company he had created. With the adult supervision gone, the company went into a blind, hyper-growth frenzy. Farnsworth and Lowe genuinely, or perhaps delusionally, believed they could eventually monetize user data for targeted advertising or strong-arm hostile theaters into sharing concession revenue once they had millions of users hostage. They thought they could operate like gym memberships, profiting off people who simply forgot to use the service. But They fundamentally misunderstood human behavior. Most people enjoy going to the movies far more than they enjoy going to the gym. By the summer of 2018, the average user was seeing well over 2 movies a month, far above the 0.77 monthly views the company needed just to break even. MoviePass was hemorrhaging cash at an apocalyptic rate, burning through more than $73 million per month, with total quarterly losses exceeding $219 million. Drunk on early success, management even expanded into content production, funding theatrical flops like the John Travolta film Gotti. To keep the lights on, Helios poured in millions, launched desperate $164 million bond sales, and filed to raise $1.2 billion to stay solvent. But investor confidence was evaporating. The fundamental flaw remained. Every single new customer they acquired actually accelerated their rapid path toward total bankruptcy. As the bank accounts rapidly drained, management panicked. Instead of simply raising the price to a rational level, MoviePass declared a shadow war on its own paying customers, implementing increasingly deceptive and desperate tactics to physically prevent people from using the service. Suddenly, users were forced into a humiliating process of photographing physical ticket stubs to prove attendance. Then came surprise peak pricing and surge fees for primetime slots. By July, they started completely blocking access to major blockbusters like Mission, impossible without any prior warning. Behind the scenes, the behavior was even more sinister. CEO Mitch Lowe secretly ordered engineers to install hidden tripwires to block heavy users and randomly force password resets under the guise of suspicious activity, intentionally locking people out of their accounts. By late July 2018, the crisis reached a humiliating peak. MoviePass literally could not pay its vendors. The entire app suffered a massive blackout on a peak summer weekend because they had run out of cash. They had to beg for a $5 million emergency loan just to turn the servers back on. They then capped daily options to a handful of obscure titles, sparking a massive public relations war with AMC, retaliating by blocking AMC theaters in major markets entirely. The chaotic changes, the blocked movies, and the blatant bait-and-switch tactics sparked furious user backlash. Class action lawsuits piled up in San Francisco and New York. The Federal Trade Commission launched investigations into their deceptive practices, eventually resulting in serious legal consequences. Customers abandoned the sinking ship in droves, dropping from a peak of more than 3 million subscribers to a mere 225,000 by spring 2019. In January 2020, Helios and Matheson officially filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, ceasing all operations. The stock went to zero. $500 million of investor money had vanished into thin air, leaving retail investors with worthless stock certificates and employees jobless. Ted Farnsworth and Mitch Lowe's reckless gamble ended in permanent reputational damage and federal court, where both would eventually plead guilty in 2024 and 2025 to federal securities fraud charges for intentionally misleading investors about the company's catastrophic financial health. But the ultimate twisted irony of the MoviePass saga belongs to the theaters. The giant chains that fiercely despise them, particularly AMC, Regal, and Cinemark, simply watch the disaster unfold, learned from MoviePass's fatal mistakes, and launched their own highly profitable subscription services with sustainable math. AMC Stubs A-List quickly gained hundreds of thousands of subscribers and made billions, benefiting massively from the increased concession sales MoviePass had proven were possible. And what about Stacy Spikes, the exiled founder who was fired for knowing how to add and subtract? In a perfect Silicon Valley ending, He bought the bankrupt, burning ashes of MoviePass back in 2021 for pennies on the dollar. He relaunched it with a realistic, credit-based system rather than unlimited movies, partnered with exhibitors, and by 2023, he announced the company's first-ever profitable year. The brief MoviePass summer of 2017 may have been a financial catastrophe, but sometimes the greatest disruption is simply surviving the idiots who stole your idea.